Hey friends! In today's video, we'll be discussing sourcing for reselling, and I know that generally you'll find resellers at thrift stores, yard sales, estate sales, but there is another option, the biggest benefit being that antique malls are open 7 days a week, so whereas estate sales are generally on the weekends, yard sales are Wednesdays and Saturdays, you do have another option. Also in today's video, I'm going to share with you some of the best pickups I've had at antique malls, including a visit I had last weekend at a mall here in the St. Louis area. So the reality is that thrift stores and yard sales and estate sales are probably your best bet for sourcing. There are many opportunities at antique malls, and I wanted to just share a few insights. I did work at an antique mall for a couple years, and so let me just share what might help you. My top recommendation would be to first consider the location of the antique mall. There are huge malls across the country. I think it's a chain called the Brass Armadillo. They're great malls, but the prices are going to reflect the high traffic, and I would highly recommend going to more rural areas. Almost every small town has a mall at this point. That's where I have found some of my best pickups, and those are what I'm going to share with you today. So my second recommendation when you visit antique malls would be to know that all dealers in antique malls are vying for the front spots. And that means that those front spots are probably going to be by dealers who are very experienced in pricing. They've been there a long time. So the deals, so to speak, probably are not going to be had in those areas. So you should start in the back or the side rooms and go where a lot of people won't even get to during the day. The third recommendation for shopping antique malls would be to try and identify booths that have lower price tags. And I know that all booths will have a variety of price tags, but there are always booths that have almost all lesser price tags of $5, $3, $1. And I just benefited from one recently, which I will show you in a few minutes here. But if you find a booth like that, you can even make a mental note to revisit it again because that dealer does not generally choose to sell high-priced items. So that is something to definitely look out for. And the last recommendation would be, as silly as it sounds, to look for booths that aren't as tidy and set in a way that is nice for display and all that, where they literally just throw things in there and it's not very organized. I found some of my best finds at the messiest booths. So you need to look out for those as well, and the chances are pretty good that the prices will be much more reasonable. Hey, and real quick, I wanted to mention the items that I always take with me sourcing. I know there's many items you could take, even some resellers carry batteries to test things, but my top two are a portable black light. You can test for all kinds of things. There's marbles, there are even beads that will glow with this black light, and I love reselling uranium products because they're just beautiful, they're old, they are rare. They will add value immediately if you've got one item that has uranium in it and another that does not. Most likely the one with uranium will sell for more. So that's number one. And number two is this magnifier. I know that in an emergency you could use your phone for a magnifier, but this one is absolutely amazing. It's old. I've tried all kinds of magnifiers, but this one is a Magnalite, and it is very lightweight. It must be like 30 magnification, something like that. And it's model number 300. It's definitely vintage, but I absolutely love it. Let me know in the comments what it is that you never leave home without when you're sourcing. I'd love to know what you guys do also. Let's take a look at some items I recently sold sourced from antique malls, and then I'll show you a few items I picked up last weekend at a mall here in the St. Louis area. The first sales, actually it was a number of sales, came from a small place in Arrow Rock, Missouri. I was with my husband, so I knew I had a finite time before his toes would start tapping. But anyway, I found a booth with a whole bunch of Avon things, and Avon is everywhere, but these items were from the Small World line. They were new in the box, and so I bought at least, there were about 12 boxes, and I sold them each for about 30 to 40 each. So that ended up total to be quite a profit. The next item I found was a bag of Barbie dolls, and at first glance it looked like they were really wrecked, but when I looked closer I could tell that some of the faces were perfect, the bodies were not, or vice versa. And I know that there are Barbie collectors that need a body replaced, or the makeup is wrecked on one face, so they'll actually replace the whole head. And there are people who simply restore Barbies, so there is a market for Barbie body parts, and you should check on eBay. There's actually quite a market for that. So I bought the whole bag for $20, and I sold them all separately. I listed them all separately, and I made well over $300 just on that bag of Barbies. Then at another mall, I found a case full of jewelry, and I'm always hunting for jewelry. I try to sell a lot of costume jewelry, and this particular pair of earrings was $5, and the mark I knew was Les Bernard, who sells really well on eBay, but the seller obviously did not. So I sold that pair of earrings for almost $200 because she didn't know the mark. I really would suggest that you even learn some jewelry marks because it's a huge market, and some of these designers can command really big money. Here was another piece of jewelry I sold, and I paid $50 for it, but I knew that Lagerfeld sells very well. He designed a lot for Chanel, so if you can find jewelry that also is stamped Chanel by him, it makes even more money. But this particular necklace, I paid $50 for it. It did sell for $473. I let it go to auction because I just wasn't positive how high it would go, and I'm glad I did because it made it to $473. You should also know that when you're looking at jewelry, and if you're interested in reselling vintage jewelry, you will begin to learn the attributes of these pieces that bring more money. This particular necklace, for instance, you can tell by its gold patina that it is high quality. You can tell that all of the seams and the stones are really well set, and you'll start to get a feel for what jewelry is better than others, because sometimes designer jewelry that is high end is not marked with any name, but you can tell, and you'll be able to tell that it is a high end piece and you should get it anyway. This picture you see of this charm was originally attached to a bracelet I bought for $20. I knew these charms were rare based on how they were tooled, and they were bubble charms that are really hard to find. The bubble shape makes the magnification of the pictures that you put inside, but they were just really cool. Anyway, I listed them separately for $75 each, and the last one was damaged, but I thought, well, I'll list it since it is rare. I listed it for $50 and it sold overnight. I might have even sold them too cheap. Now, this last picture is of a vase I sold that I found at a mall on a road trip with one of my girlfriends, and it was $90, but at the time, this lusterware by Noritake was really high, and so I did pay the $90. I listed it, I let it go to auction rather than a buy it now price, and it closed at $760. Now beware, because today these pieces of Noritake have really taken a downturn in market value. So of course, always do your research and make sure before you spend $90 that you will be able to at least recover that. Now let me show you a few items I recently found last week at St. Charles Antique Mall here in the St. Louis area. The first item sold actually overnight, and you'll see a picture of these gloves, and they were marked for only $5 in this booth, and this guy had really good prices on many other things, so I will be listing more. but I could tell these were good gloves, and I didn't know until I looked at the label that they're trending, I think, for Halloween costumes. But anyway, they were only $5. They sold overnight for 99. And at first I thought I might need to get rid of that water stain, but the more research I did, I thought I probably don't. So I listed them anyway, and again, they sold overnight. Next find was in a booth that had all earrings for $1, which is every sorcerer's dream. And these earrings I got are Heidi Daus, D-A-U-S. She sells pretty well. I haven't decided yet what I'll list them for, but I know it will be more than $1. When you buy jewelry like this, now these are enamel, always really check them so you don't end up listing with disclaimers that there's a chip or a stone missing. I have replaced stones before, but if you don't know how to do that, it's just not worth the risk because people generally won't buy them. Here's a good example of designer earrings that are not marked, and I could just tell right away based on the craftsmanship here that they were probably high-end earrings just based on how those rhinestones are set and they're pronged. You can see the sides are the rhinestones there. You can see the cording is high quality. The back is finished with suede. I just knew they were special, and now I know the designer, but it is Deepa Gurnani, I think is the name. These will sell anywhere from 50 to 100. Great find for $10. Here is another item that I already sold, and they only sold for 20, but this booth had all these Barbie shoes for $1 each, which is really a bargain, but I knew to look for boots that are squishy. They're the ones that sell. The later boots are hard plastic, and if they're squishy, they're still really desirable. So I decided to put them together as one listing. They only sold for 20, but those $20 listings certainly add up. So that was a great find. I wish he would have actually had more of the boots, but he only had the 3 pair. And finally, I found this tree that I recognized as Bethany Lowe. Tons of collectors out there for her designs. And this tree had a whole bunch of ornaments and pearl garland on it. So it's best to break these items up because a lot of people only want the tree, only want the ornaments. I did sell one listing of ornaments already. The tree is still up on my eBay store as well as the other ornaments and the pearl garland, but I paid only $15 for the tree. It was pretty messy and I had to untangle everything, but this should bring a pretty good profit as well. So that's all the examples I have for now, but I really would encourage you to check out antique malls when you don't have estate sales available or it's not yet garage sale time in the summer here in St. Louis. And let me know if you've ever had a real find at an antique mall. I hope this has been helpful for you in sourcing at antique malls and that it's maybe given you a new perspective on shopping there. And my next video should be in a few days. I'll be out sourcing with my sister and we'll be going on a road trip actually, and I will bring coverage from that. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.